Welcome back to the Unabated podcast. I'm Gina Fiore. This week, I sit down with sports bettor Jordan Hammond. Jordan and I discuss how to successfully file complaints with gaming commissions across the country as it relates to sports betting. He gives real life examples of disputes, and we talk about who exactly gets a seat on a state's gaming commission. Please enjoy this week's episode with Jordan Hammond.
That's a new word, unabated. That's the biggest word I know.
Hi, Jordan. I'm really glad that I get to talk to you today. I knew that when I met you, I wanted you on this podcast, so I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happen to share some stories and hopefully some valuable advice about some regulatory stuff here.
For sure, for sure. As it relates to gambling, what's your bio? Can you give us a short profile on yourself?
Sure. Yeah, short profile. I guess I've always been looking for an edge in gambling, probably going back to like Chuck E. Cheese, Dave and Buster's days, but we'll kind of skip all that, I guess. I probably started out in poker, I guess, was probably the first thing, maybe 15 years ago,
Hmm.
trying to get an edge during kind of the tail end of the poker boom there. Maybe hit or miss there on some 1, 2, 2 5s in tournament play. Yeah, from there it was more just some casino gambling, got into some card counting, some other very minor AP type stuff, and then I actually moved up here to Iowa, and conveniently sports betting became legal in 2019. And I guess my background, I'm an actuary, so you take all these exams, this math stuff, and it's some of it's relevant, some of it's not. But one thing that is super relevant is sports betting. You try treat it like a market, and it kind of acts the same as any of the other insurance products. So
Hmm.
2019 started. I think there was 1 or 2 apps that came into the market here, just betting $20, $50 on the promos, just hustling. And then as more and more apps came into play, started getting more serious, upping the bets, getting more profit, which kind of snowballed until, of course, the apps kind of started limiting. So ever
Hmm.
since then, trying to find new angles on gambling, and of course running into some roadblocks too with some gaming commissions too. But as I've gotten more experience with that, I've branched out, started helping other folks. Just something I've always been interested in. Just something I kind of do on my own time. So yeah, I guess that probably brings us to today.
Yeah. Did you bet sports before 2018 or 2019?
A little bit. I think like Bovada or any of the offshore things. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. It was really just for fun. $5, $10, put it on an offshore site.
Hmm.
I remember having an issue with a payout for like $50, and I remember going on. I think it was SBR forum at the time, which
Yep.
predates Discord, predates Reddit. All of the communities at least on those sites. So. Um, I was touch and go for very small amounts there for probably 5 years prior to it being legalized here in Iowa.
I know a few actuaries actually that got into sports betting, so that's not a surprise. You just said that you had an issue offshore with like a $50 an account with $50 in it or a $50 wager. I'm not sure. Was that your first time filing a complaint or dealing with a sports book, or did you let that go?
So that one, I made a post on. It was SBR forum at the time,
Mm.
and someone I guess saw my post, reached out to the sports book, knew some operator, whatever happened was behind the scenes, and I did wind up getting paid. So
Okay.
that was 2014. That wasn't a gaming commission. I'm actually not even sure what was regulating that sports book.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I ultimately did wind up getting paid on that.
And how did you first get involved filing complaints after 2018 or after 2019? What was the catalyst?
Sure. So 2019, I think August they started legalizing sports books. They had all these promotions. It was bet $20, $50. You get $3 for every 3-pointer made in an NBA game. Very lucrative promos. I mean, we were talking, maybe a couple $100 a week, and they would always pay after 3 or 4 days. But then after a few months, the promos started posting to the account a week later or 2 weeks later. And at one point, I think the promos always had like a 1 or 2 week grace period. It said you will get paid,
Hmm.
in 2 weeks. And then after talking with chat one time, they're like, "Oh, the money should be there. I don't know where it is. Oh, it'll be one more day or 2 more days." I finally got fed up with it, and I looked into, what can I do? This whole thing's supposed to be legalized. There should be some authority to enforce this. So a quick Google search here in Iowa, it's called the Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission, IRGC. I actually pulled some stats here. I sent my first gaming complaint at 11 a.m. 20 minutes later, I got a response, and 2 hours later, I had the money in my account.
Wow.
Which I was kind of flying blind before that, so that really got me, I guess, to the level of faith in whatever authority was kind of governing these sports books.
Do you can you say which sportsbook that is, or do you just want to
Sure, yeah,
skip
that
that?
one was yeah, they made it right. So it was William Hill, which is
Okay.
now, I think they got purchased by Caesars. I'm
Mhm.
unsure of exactly how the operators work there, but yeah, Caesars Sportsbook now.
Overall, and we'll get into more examples of disputes that you've dealt with, but overall, do you think that sports books are making regulatory errors on purpose, or do you think they're naive and they just don't know how traditional sports books run?
Um, I'll say I think they run fairly smoothly. Some of the complaints I've seen, it almost seems like I'll call it weaponized incompetence.
Mhm.
So generally, you go through a chat feature of, "Hey, I didn't get paid," or
Mhm.
something like that. And some of the responses of these chats are just, I mean, they make no sense. They don't understand it, or their response doesn't make any sense, or they can't do anything, or they can't see something on your account. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily like, oh, they're in on it, like they're hoping you go away before you get paid, because I don't think anyone's actually going away. Like they
Right.
post it publicly and everything, so it's definitely in their interest to actually pay these out. So I'm not sure if I really answered the question, but I would say overall they're trying to do the right thing. I think a lot of it is based on their reputation. A lot of people coming into sports betting, like, are scared of getting stiff, so they want to remove that stigma as much as possible.
Yeah, I think by design, customer service is built in a way that it's hard to deal with. I mean, they don't have phone numbers. You're always getting a response from a different operator, a different chat person. When you email, it's always somebody else responding. So by design, they make it difficult, but that might just be, it's probably just bad business on their part. But once you get to higher level disputes, we'll get into some examples. I'm curious if they're purposeful. So I guess if you could tell me some stories of other disputes that you've either gotten in or that you've helped people get out of.
Sure, yeah. So I guess a lot of the early disputes that I got, probably the first five or so that I did, were all just promos like, "Hey, you're not getting paid. Like, here are the terms and conditions. I should have gotten paid by now," and just getting no response. And I always got paid pretty quickly on that. Um, Later, I got into more complex things. These were all still personal. I don't think I assisted anyone until maybe about 2022, actually making a complaint. Um, One I remember specifically was I made a bet. It was a substantially sized bet, just mid three figures on a basketball game. And having dealt with gaming commissions, I take a screenshot of every single one of my bets. The bet won, and then I go back and look after the game, and the bet's nowhere to be found. So I contact chat, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have any record of you making this bet." So then I send the bet, and they're like, "Oh, I don't think this is tied to your account." And they're like, "Oh, we canceled the bet because we needed some security, some KYC, know your customer type
Hmm.
something." They're going around it. Um, I think if I had not had that screenshot, I would have had no foundation to stand on. So I
Hmm.
submitted the whole chat. I saved the whole thing, sent the screenshot over to the gaming commission, and again, like a day or two later, I wound up getting paid on that. Unfortunately, they limited me about a day or two after
Right.
that. I'll call it a coincidence. Of course, you can never really tie it together. Um, Trying to think of any of the more extreme examples I've seen. There's one, a lot of folks that find me on Reddit or Discord, they'll win substantial, $10,000, $20,000, and then their account gets closed, and there's all these loopholes you have to jump through. And it's really at that point, it's like, okay, calm down. This is a normal thing. You don't necessarily have to file a gaming commission complaint right away. For whatever reason, a large win seems to lock down the accounts, but it's kind of walking somebody through that type of experience. Hey, do you have documentation of the bet? Do you know what your account level was? Here's kind of your last resort is who you need to contact in this state.
So between 2019 and 2022, when you started helping other people, did most of your disputes originate with bonuses, you taking bonuses, or were they just straight bets?
Most of them were with bonuses.
Okay.
Yeah, especially earlier on. Um, yeah, I would say later on they kind of developed into terms and conditions of like not the bonuses, but um, trying to think of one. Like there was one where like a listed pitcher bet. There was a sports book. I actually forget which one it was. I don't think it exists anymore. But they didn't understand what the listed pitcher bet meant, which means for anyone that doesn't know, means the pitcher on the bet actually has to start pitching the game for the bet to have action.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's void and you get your money back. And no one that I chatted with had any idea what that was. So I'm like, here's your terms and conditions. Here's where it's listed. And unfortunately, that went back and forth with the gaming commission also because they didn't quite understand what that meant. Um, but yeah, I guess as I my bet size went up and the promos went away and I started doing actual betting, market EV arbitrage betting, it got a little more complex to resolve those complaints. It's certainly not same day turnaround type things.
Right. Who is usually on the gaming, like the IRGC? Who is on that board? Who
So
gets those positions?
yeah, that is an excellent question. I have actually applied for a gaming commission just to be on the board.
Mhm.
I don't know what it takes. I've looked up folks on, so you can go to the IRGC website, just for example. You can look them up. They're generally like business owners. Just it doesn't seem like they're career politicians or anything. I've reached out to them. I haven't gotten any response on like, hey, what does it take to be in this gaming commission? I don't think it's politically affiliated. You have Republicans, Democrats, Independents on all this stuff. But it is actually not the board members that are responding to you. It's just like somebody that works there, like an admin or something,
Mhm.
that's adjudicating the issue, and then I don't even know what happens with them and operators. You don't get any of that correspondence. A lot of times you submit your complaint, and then the response comes directly from the gaming commission, and you don't hear anything from the operator itself.
So have you ever, or does it ever happen in any state where you actually have to go in person and make your case in front of the gaming board? Is that a thing that
Uh,
happens?
I have never heard of that happening.
Okay.
I think I probably helped about 30 folks on a range of cases from Colorado, Michigan, New Jersey, New York. Never heard of that happening. So yeah,
Okay. And
hopefully
what's
that's
your
not a thing. Yeah,
yeah, what's your success rate just overall?
sure. So my success rate, I'm about 28-2. Some of the stuff, there's a little gray area as to like what it means to be successful. Like,
Mhm.
okay, you didn't have to file a commission complaint. I don't know if you count that as a win or not. I generally do. I kind of bragged on for a while, at least on Discord. I had a perfect record with the IRGC,
Yeah.
and then there was one that came down. FanDuel. I'll just use this example
Mhm.
since I was kind of in the wrong here. FanDuel has a defense touchdown, which I don't know if you're familiar with too much on NFL. Every other sports book has they call it defense special teams. Anyone on this defense, the special teams to score a touchdown. FanDuel is different. They separate the defense and the special teams bet. Um, but if you do any research as to like what exactly it means to be special teams, there's different definitions. So that was a back and forth that took about 2 or 3 weeks, and ultimately they sided with the operator on that. So that was unfortunate, but still have a betting about 90% or so.
And do most of those people who you file complaints for or help them, are they quickly limited after their complaint is resolved?
It's very common. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess a lot of the stuff that they're filing. So, a lot when I started making a decent income doing sports betting, of course, I'm telling my friends, telling my family, I'm like, hey, you guys got to get in on this. There are things I think I can out some edges at this point, like live tennis, where betting live tennis, especially the frequency and the bet size that we're doing, it's obvious what you're doing. You're arbitraging, you're trying to lay off the bets on some other site. So you're probably going to get limited anyway, and it's just making so many bets. You're just going to run into some issues sometimes with payments, or if you're betting like Eastern European tennis, and a lot of times there's no record of what the score was, and you can't find it anywhere. So yeah, I'll just say it's coincidental.
Okay. Does it happen often that a line is off Let's say a total is over 230 and it just happens to be off, I don't know, over 238. Something like that. Is there a point where sports books usually say, no, that was off too much. It doesn't count. It's void.
That's interesting. There's no, I forget the Supreme Court justice that said it. He's like, I don't know it. Yeah, it's hard to define, but I know when I see it type thing when it's when the line's off.
Hmm.
Um, I'll say 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be the case that I remember betting into a line that should have been minus 1,200 and it was plus 1,200.
Okay,
So
right.
that hundred, yeah, your $100 should pay you $8, and instead it pays you $1,200, and they went ahead and paid it. It seems like you have to be egregiously off. It depends on the book. I know Bet 365. I'll just name some books just because I know
Hmm.
there's examples of these. Bet 365 generally has a low tolerance for being off. If it should have been plus 200, they're paying you plus 300, they might void it.
Hmm.
And actually, they won't void it. They'll just pay you the 200 and say, "Oh, you should have been betting at this line," which is the little ethical gray area there. Um, but generally, I would say within like a factor of two or three, they'll go ahead and pay it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure exactly how they decide it, but again, I mean, it gets a lot of bad press when you go and start avoiding
Yeah.
these bets because of an error that you made.
Do you know any examples of a sports book paying out on error? So the user got paid when they shouldn't have legitimately. They withdraw their money, they empty their account, and the sports book coming back and trying to collect that money. Do you know any examples of that?
Yeah, so that does happen. In fact, I think that used to be pretty common a couple years ago. I think just errors were more common a
Hmm.
couple years ago. Again, there was one listed pitcher bet where they went ahead and paid it that should have been void. This was not my account, but somebody else. They emptied their account and then they had a negative account balance. So the way that they dealt with it was they just never logged in. They avoided all the emails, and then ultimately the book no longer exists. So I think they kind of got away with it, but generally, cash outs take a little bit. So if there's an error, like I just know, for example, like MGM had an error one time, bet MGM, and they clawed it back kind of rightfully so within 24 hours. But I mean, that's also when payments maybe took a couple days to hit your account. I know a lot of these books now advertise instant payouts
Yeah.
or things, but yeah, sometimes it'll just reflect a negative number in your account balance.
Yeah, I know a few people who've gotten paid by an error, emptied their account and nothing happened. Like
Mhm.
nobody came for the money basically, so they got away with it, I guess you could say. You said that you've dealt with complaints in several states. Can you talk about the differences regulatorily? Sorry, I'm getting that word wrong. The differences, the gaming commission differences, state by state.
Sure. So yeah, just to clarify, I have only actually done a filing in Iowa. I've helped other people prepare kind of like supporting evidence, showed them like how to submit a gaming complaint, but they've gone ahead and done that on their own.
Mhm.
Um, so I will say Iowa is probably the best state, especially with the number of sports books, just based on my success rate, just anecdotally hearing what other people have had that they've had success with that. New Jersey's another great one. In fact, there was an incident maybe a week or two ago where I'm not exactly sure what the rule is in New Jersey. I know, like for counting cards, they're not allowed to back you off without a
Mhm.
cause apart from counting. It seems like that's similar on the apps. Like they can't just outright ban you. So somebody had gotten banned, like out, like you're not betting anymore, and then they got reinstated once they talked to chat and threatened to go to the gaming commission. Um, the poorer ones are probably Michigan. Michigan will eventually make things right, but it can take months, like 3, 4, 5 months. I'm not exactly sure what takes them so long, but it is just generally you can be out of commission, I guess, on an account for that long.
Mhm.
Maybe the worst experience I had was with Colorado, where this was maybe 2 years ago. Somebody had an issue with one of the books there, and they submitted a gaming complaint, and the commission came back and said, "You need to figure it out with the operator. Like we're washing our hands of this."
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, "What's the point of a commission if you're not going to, adjudicate these issues?"
Yeah.
And ultimately, the operator did wind up paying, but that was kind of like okay, my layovers. Iowa doesn't have our direct flight, so we stop in Denver a lot. I
Oh.
used to go and make a bunch of bets and everything. I'm like, okay, not in Denver. We're going to skip that state.
Have you ever dealt with a complaint in Nevada?
Never Nevada. Nevada. I would say it's kind of a wasteland when it comes to online betting.
Hmm.
Uh, I know like the gaming commission takes things very seriously in like the
Yes.
brick and mortar casinos there. But yeah, fortunate never run into one of those issues.
And so sports books have, and it depends which one, but they have pretty strict KYC. They want a lot from KYC. Some of them, before they pay you, if you have a complaint, they want your bank statement and they want proof that these are your funds, and they want a selfie, and they just want more and more and more. Should someone, if they have a complaint, give all of those documents even when they're super invasive, or is there a point where they should stop and say this is too much and then go to gaming?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, generally the KYC will be, I mean, it'll be bank statement.
Hmm.
A picture of the ID is super common. The selfie, the first time I had to take a selfie to verify, I think I just had like a, what is going on here type moment. Um, I have never had an issue with it personally, and everyone that I've known that's filed went ahead and did that. I don't think we've ever had like a privacy discussion about it, but um, yeah, I would have to know the actual KYC terms. I don't even know if they're listed in the terms and conditions in a sports book.
Yeah,
But
I've never seen, I read terms and conditions a lot, and I've never seen KYC mentioned other than a very blanket, we need to verify who you are. Something like maybe two lines, but I've never seen we require this, this, and this document.
yeah, I kind of liken it like I know kind of in-person AP. Like if you don't want to give ID, you can have a police officer there, and they can look at your ID, and you can tell them, "Hey, I don't
Oh,
want the casino to see the ID." Or like for conversion issues, if they aren't going to cash your chips out or things or something like that. I know Gambling with an Edge used to have a bunch of
hmm.
examples of that happening. So I don't know if the equivalent is okay. Hey, I don't want to submit this selfie. I don't trust this company. Maybe I can submit it with the IRGC and then they can vouch for me or whatever it is.
I've been in a back room of a casino. I've been a few times. I've been in a casino where I asked the police officer not to give my ID to the casino, and I remember specifically being laughed at once. So
Mhm.
I feel like going to gaming with your ID and asking that they vouch for you to the operator probably won't go over well.
Mhm.
Um, as far as the future of sports betting, like overall, what do you see happening?
Man, the future of sports betting. So I'll say I used to do a lot more sports betting back when I had all these valid accounts. A lot of what I do now is again like friends and family, the people that still have good accounts. Um, like just try and get in account longevity and get as much profit as possible. So I was actually at Bet Bash. I know you were in Las
Mhm.
Vegas maybe around the same time. Were you at Bet Bash also?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was not there. Or I was downtown a few times, but I met you at the blackjack ball that weekend after.
Okay, yeah. So I think probably the future is for folks that, I mean, it just seems like it takes less and less to get limited. I mean,
Hmm.
information's everywhere, and if you take advantage of it, then you're limited to betting a few dollars. A lot of the exchanges have been popping up. I know in Iowa we have, I think Sport Trade. I think ExpressBet may be another one. There's also like social sports books. That's maybe a legal gray area. I know in Iowa it's frowned upon to bet that type of things. Where using these gold coins, and then you get
Yeah.
this free money that you can cash out for real money. And I think as long as the legal sports books make it tougher for like I guess people to actually bet, there's going to be more of that finding alternatives. I think the exchange is great. Like they're not going to limit anyone. Um, at least as far as I know, it's just a liquidity thing. It's like a peer-to-peer type gambling thing. Um, I think they need to figure out a way to make it a little bit. They need to get the same game parlay feature in with these because you can really only bet like one at a time with the
Mhm.
liquidity that they have there. But someone will figure it out and make a lot of money.
Do you think, and I know you're not a lawyer, but do you think that there's any case of breaking the terms and conditions that are illegal? Do you think that using someone else's account where they're not involved is fraud? Like, is there something that you can do breaking the terms and conditions that could be looked at as illegal?
Yeah, so I think it is. I guess I don't know if it rises to the level of fraud. Definitely misrepresentation.
Hmm.
I know like in person, like messenger betting was maybe the equivalent of doing this. I've personally steered away from it, but I know a lot of people that make decent money. A lot of it's like, oh, your mom or your dad or something that maybe they're not going to bet, but they're fine. Like, oh, hey, I've
Mhm.
made all this money. I just need this new account. Um, so I would say that is a personal assumption of risk that everybody needs to go through and said, like, okay, it's against the terms and conditions. They probably will not find out. I don't know if I was a lawyer, I probably couldn't say that, but I don't know if I've heard of anyone like getting anything more than, oh, your account's banned because we think you're multi-accounting. I don't think they've ever pressed charges or tried to claw back any profit that's been made on the second or third account.
Right. I haven't heard of any examples either. As far as different states go, like DraftKings or FanDuel, do they have the same do they settle the bets the same in every state? Do they have the same terms and conditions in every state? Do they treat their customers the same in every state?
So the way they settle the bets, my understanding it's the same. I know there are certain bets you can't make in some states, whether it's betting on like college props for college teams in that state. Trying to think of any examples I've heard of where it's like different terms and conditions. Not that I can think of. There's certainly not been one where I've filed or helped someone file a gaming commission complaint. I'm like, oh, that's weird. In Iowa, it's these terms. A lot of
Mhm.
times I'll look for the terms and conditions, and Indiana will pop up before Iowa, and I'll just go read that one because I'm like, okay, there's no way they're going to be any different. So, um,
Have
yeah,
have you turned anyone down? Have you turned anyone down who comes to you with a complaint and you just think they're in the wrong and you won't be involved with that?
yeah. So there is one, I guess a few times. This is maybe a year or two ago, like on Reddit, someone will come up with like, oh, there's a KYC and I can't pass the KYC. And it turns out like they were underage, which I don't know how they got an account in the first place. Or like you said, like if they're messenger betting, like if they're multi-accounting. And I'm like, okay, it's against the terms and conditions. Like, okay, maybe you can fight it in terms of like, oh, you let me bet until I wanted to cash out or something. Like it's maybe a little unethical on both parties, but since there was some misrepresentation going into it, like I generally won't deal with that.
And how can people get in touch with you? You said you're on Reddit and you're on Discord.
So
How can people?
I used to be on Reddit, maybe more frequently. So Discord is generally where all of the betting information happens. Um, I guess my handle is Iowa Actuary, so it's IOWACTUARY. Put in the show notes or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, generally, yeah, all of the because 3 or 4 years ago, everything was on Reddit. It's kind of transitioned to the Discord and some kind of private communities.
How's SBR? Is that pretty helpful these days or not really?
So there was one where someone was trying to get paid on an offshore, and I referred them to SBR for them. But it's
Hmm.
probably been 5 or 10 years since I've even logged in there. But um, I want to say that's maybe more of the. I don't know if it's still the case that more of the forum for like the international betting.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, definitely on Discord now for the states.
And which Discord communities do you belong to where people can chat you up?
Let's see. So most of the ones that I'm in are private. A
Okay.
lot of it is just sharing information. So you just kind of keep it.
Hmm.
Let's see. I don't know what the actual. Sorry, I'm actually a little new to Discord. I'm trying to figure out like what the communities are called versus like what they're colloquial called. Um,
Are you do you belong to any public ones?
yeah, I guess there's one. There's one I joined recently. Bet recaps. They've got some good information on general like if you're looking for edges going out there. I know Unabated is great. I met Captain Jack at
Mhm.
Blackjack Ball also. Talked to him a little bit. Like that's, I mean, if he or Rufus can't figure it out, then you're probably not going to figure it out regardless. Um, those are probably the two main ones. Also, I know trying to think of some of these. Sorry, there's a lot of private ones I would like to not share the
Yeah, of
name of,
course,
but
of
I would
course.
say I'm definitely in the unabated one. Yeah, if you can reach out to me, I'm usually talking survivor strategy because I got hooked on that at Bet Bash also. So
Are you
feel free
still
to reach
in?
out.
Are you in Circa?
So not the Circa one, but there is the Phil Hellmuth Million Maker one that I'm still in. I've got 3 entries. I think there's 220 left. So first place is a million. So
Oh,
I'm yeah, if I could pay my mortgage and expected value, I'd be doing pretty good right now. But unfortunately, we're probably yeah, at least months away from that. So
what is that through? What did he do his Survivor through?
so that one's called Splash Sports.
Oh, okay.
So it's not available in every state. I actually had to drive to Nebraska to go sign up, and
Mm.
then because of all the things that are legal in Iowa, you cannot do like any of like the some of the fantasy sports, I guess. So, but yeah, it was. I don't know if you joined the Circa Survivor, but it was kind of a bloodbath for the first month or so, and it's kind of swung the other way here with very few people getting knocked out.
Yeah, I didn't. I joined a smaller Survivor, but then I bought 5% of an entry about 2 weeks ago. So
Okay,
In EV, I'm up. So,
that's good.
so we'll see how that goes. Are you active on Twitter?
No, not on Twitter. Really, Discord is really the only community. I don't have enough interesting things to say on Twitter or do enough interesting things to be on Instagram. So it's generally Discord for pretty much everything.
Uh, I just thought of this. Have you dealt with any complaints on the casino side of these online sports books?
On the casino side, I've not. I've looked at some complaints. A lot of the ones that are like social casinos are based out of Malta,
Mm.
which a lot of times, if you try and file anything with your gaming commission, they're like, "We have no jurisdiction over this." So no complaints there yet.
And is there something that I haven't asked you, or that's something you would like to add that's important to know?
Let me see.
Because this is a good conversation, and these are valuable things to know.
Sure, I would say if anyone's, I guess, worried about the credibility of dealing with any of this, I would say read your terms and conditions, take screenshots of every bet you make, and you'll be fine. These regulators they seem to be doing their job for the most part in most states when it comes to actually enforcing and having everyone yeah actually getting paid when they're supposed to be getting paid. So I would say do those two things, and for the most part, you'll be fine. But if for whatever reason you're not, yeah, feel free to reach out. And I never charge or anything. I just enjoy doing it. I feel like I know it pretty well, and I know I've been a net consumer of information the past 5 years when it comes to sports betting. So happy to give back.
Yeah, you said that Iowa's been pretty okay as far as settling disputes. Do you think that has anything to do with, well, I guess your name isn't on all of the disputes. You're just helping out. So your name isn't on any of these complaints, correct? I thought maybe they might get to know you and think, okay, we don't want to mess with this.
Yeah, it's not on any complaints. I would say probably my complaints are very thorough. I'll peer review some of them. Like here's your
Mhm.
screenshot. You walk through exactly what you were expecting. You said what actually happened, and then yeah, the one of the keys is how you want it resolved. Because a lot of times they'll be like, okay, well, what do you want us to do about it? Like it's a promo bet, and even
Mhm.
if you had the promo, like I'll just give a quick example. There was a book, DRF here, which existed in Iowa for like a year, and I submitted. They have like VIP status, and I had a deposit bonus. And then they limited me quickly after, and I was going to forfeit all this money because I couldn't even make a bet. So that I talked to the gaming commission, and they're like, "Well, we can just give you the money back, or we can allow you to bet." So um, just be very exact in terms of I guess what you're expecting the outcome to be.
Have you found that hosts are helpful in these situations if somebody has a host?
I would say probably the opposite. There was one I got. I had a host, and then as soon as I got limited, they ghosted me, and so that was again that Caesars, which I think is pretty common for that happening. But yeah, I would say almost no help. A lot of that I know some other books also is as soon as you get limited or not really for filing complaints, but generally the limited side, they tend to disappear.
Right. It would be great if you could figure out how to get on the gaming commission in Iowa. That would be amazing.
Yeah. So actually, a quick story about that. So I
Mhm.
actually talked to a city councilman here about how to do it. IRGC is at the state level, so really just anyone in government that I wanted to talk to. He recommended aligning with the party that is currently in power in Iowa. So just having that
Oh.
Republican as your voter registration. But I had the pleasure of talking to I. Nelson Rose.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, professor on gaming law. And I met him at Bet Bash. I was like, hey, I'm interested in the gaming commission. And then he and I have been emailing since then of like, hey, here's what you need to do. And generally they need an equal number of Democrats and Republicans. And I actually looked up how to do it in Iowa. So I've made my official application. So yeah, hopefully it's just a matter of time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep me posted if that happens. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for having it with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if I ever have a dispute, I know who to reach out to, and anyone listening to this, now you know who to reach out to. And yeah, I really appreciate that you're doing it at no charge too. That's great for the community.
Yeah, of course. Also,
Okay,
I don't know if I said I'm not a lawyer. So yeah,
great.
just consumer advocate, if you will.
You have a lot of experience. Okay, thank you for the conversation.
Yep. Thanks, Gina.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode with Jordan Hammond. Jordan gave a lot of valuable information, but the thing that stuck out to me was his suggestion to offer resolution when you're filing a complaint. It's not unlikely that the regulators handling your dispute won't know the proper course of action to take when they do find a sports book in error. I just thought that was a great suggestion. Please like this podcast, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you'd like to explore the tools that Unabated has to offer, you can sign up for a demo and they'll give you a free trial. The link is in the bio. Have a great day.